The sun hangs low and spiteful over the New Mexico flats, turning every rock into a glowing coal. Silas McAllister, lean-shouldered, sun-cracked, is halfway back from mending a blown fence when he notices something out of place, a dark ribbon cutting across the pale dust like spilled ink. Blood, and not cattle blood. He kneels, touches it, feels the heat still trapped in the droplet. Fresh. Silas follows the trail past the hay shed, boots crunching in the hush before dusk. The smears grow thicker, brighter, circling around the back corner of his stone well. Instinct drags his Winchester from its saddle scabbard. Raiders, rustlers, maybe worse. He rounds the wall ready to shoot. What he finds freezes the trigger finger of a man who hasn't hesitated since the war. A young Apache warrior, no more than 20 summers, lies half-collapsed against the well. Dust cakes one cheek, blood dams itself between his fingers, where they clutch a ragged hole in his flank. The barrel of a broken musket rests beside him like an abandoned crutch. Yet the stranger's eyes, dark and too alert, track Silas with an animal's last reserves of fight. The rifle in Silas's hands suddenly feels heavier than iron. 6 years ago, a raid took Silas's wife in a flash of flame and arrows, and the folks in Santa Rosa called it justice when the posse hanged 3 Apaches without trial. Since then, the line between grief and hatred inside Silas has been as sharp as barbed wire. The frontier rule is simple. Find a wounded raider on your land. Finish him before his kin finish you. He plants a boot, raises the Winchester to his shoulder. The barrels align with the boy's heart. The Apache tries and fails to sit straighter. His lips crack, release a single whisper. Water. The word slices through the dry air, lands like a stone in Silas's gut. Memories flood up. The drought of 45 when he himself lay fever-mad beside this very well, praying for a bucket he was too weak to haul. How the first drink felt like forgiveness. No raiding party would beg for water. They would take it. Rifle still ready, Silas hooks the rope and lowers the bucket. The pulley creaks. Cool echoes drift up from the shaft. He sets the pail by the warrior's good hand. The youth gulps 3 times, water slipping down his chin before he can steady his breath. Color creeps back beneath the paint on his cheeks. Up close, Silas spots the details that change everything. Powder burns fringing the wound. Someone fired at point-blank range. The shot angle is low, upward, execution style. A patch of blue cloth dangles from the bullet hole. It reeks of army gunpowder. Whoever shot this boy wasn't hunting deer, or even war. The Apache's gaze sharpens, flicks toward the horizon. He raises a shaking arm, points west, then slices the air across his throat. A warning. Danger rides behind him. Hoof beats, faint but steady, reach Silas's ears a heartbeat later. Multiple horses running hard. They echo off the mesa, bouncing fear around the yard. Neighbors sit 60 miles out. No one visits after supper. Only lawmen or killers ride this late and this fast. Silas's pulse thunders. If he drags the boy away, the move will tear the wound. If he leaves him, the posse will follow the blood trail right into Silas's front yard. Either way, rifles will speak before the bats rise. The warrior senses the same calculation. He grips Silas's wrist, surprisingly strong for a man half-bled, and meets his eyes. Gratitude shines there, yes, but also urgency, as though he's entrusting his very heartbeat to this stranger in work-stiff overalls. The hoofbeats grow louder, hooves striking rock like hammers on anvils. Silas curses under his breath. Choices in the desert are always simple and never easy. He slings the Winchester, wedges a shoulder beneath the Apache's good arm, and hauls him upright. The youth bites back a groan, but moves. They stagger along the well wall toward the shadow of the hay barn, toward an old root cellar cloaked by tumbleweed. 5 paces short of cover, a trumpet-bright voice cracks the evening calm. "McAllister, hold where you are." Silas turns. 6 riders crest the rise, backlit by the dying sun. At their head sits Marshal Hank Dalton, silver star glinting, Spencer rifle laid casual across his pommel. The most feared badge south of the Arkansas. Behind Silas, the warrior wobbles, blood dripping fresh. Dalton's eyes sweep the scene, snag on the crimson dots in the dust. The marshal smiles, a thin, merciless thing. Looks like you've been busy. The hoofbeats cease. The hush that follows is the hush between lightning flash and thunderclap. Silas's hand finds the rifle sling, but the iron feels miles away. He's no longer deciding whether to save a stranger. He's deciding how many seconds of truth he can buy before bullets tear the dusk apart, and whether those seconds will be enough. Marshal Hank Dalton swings from the saddle with the unhurried grace of a rattlesnake sliding out of sun-baked rock. His 5 deputies, Miles Ellis, Cooper Lyle, Griff Mooney, and 2 greenhorns, spread into a half-moon. Spurs jingle, rifle bolts click home, dust halos their silhouettes in the dying light. "Evenin', Silas." Dalton's drawl drips molasses yet tastes of gun oil. "Blood trail says a herd Apache crawled past your fence. You see any hostiles limping through?" Silas plants himself an arm's length before the well, one man trying to hide a secret big as the sky. "Just fence wire and thirsty cattle, Marshal." Dalton's pale eyes rake the ground, find a glint of crimson. He crouches, swipes a fingertip through it, brings the smear to his nose. "Fresh," he murmurs, as if complimenting wine. Behind him, Deputy Mooney unslings a carbine, eager for orders. Silas feels the wounded warrior's weight sag against the well's far side. One slip, one groan, and mercy becomes a gallows knot. He adjusts his stance to block Dalton's line of sight. "Mind moving aside?" Dalton asks, polite the way winter is polite before a blizzard. "Need to inspect your well. Regulations, you understand." Silas's thumb strokes the safety on his Winchester. "Regulations never cared about my well before." Dalton straightens dusting hands. "True, but there's a bounty on this particular lop ear." He taps a poster tucked in his vest, a charcoal likeness of an Apache youth, the words "Wanted for the murder of Colonel Sutter." "Reward gold ink catches sunset. 500 in coins says he's bleeding somewhere close." A wind-fluttered heartbeat passes, then a faint clink of stone on the stone betrays the hidden man. Dalton's head snaps toward the sound. Silas motions to distract him, but too late. The marshal strides forward, boots grinding gravel. From behind the rim rises a voice, ragged but steady. "That reward money, Marshal, might buy your conscience back." English, perfect, unaccented. The deputies stiffen, stunned that the savage speaks their tongue. The wounded youth drags himself into view, one hand bracing the stones, the other still glued to his bloody flank. Sweat and paint streak his cheek, yet his posture carries a warrior's poise. Dalton's eyes widen a fraction. "Well, I'll be talking Apache. My name is Chayton Red Elk," the youth says, breath saw-edged. "Son of Chief Red Cedar. The bullet in me was fired by white men in war paint, not by my own." He produces, from a rawhide pouch, a dog-eared journal, spattered with his blood, then thrusts it toward Dalton. "Colonel Sutter's field notes. They name the men who set the ambush, men tied to every weapon shipment that vanished this year." Dalton's smile splits like brittle glass. "Hand it over before you stain the pages further." Chayton shakes his head. The motion leaves a red smear on the stone. "Not until I reach Fort Wingate, alive. That diary is evidence." Silas studies the marshal's reaction. No surprise, only irritation. The look of a gambler whose winning hand has been glimpsed. Deputy Miles Ellis notices too. Confusion wrinkles his brow. Dalton steps closer, boots squelching where watery blood darkens dust. "Son, the law says you're a fugitive. I say you're a liar." His palm settles on his Colt's grip. "Give me the book." A brittle silence hums like insects under a stone. Silas inhales desert air, hot as forge breath. If Dalton grabs that journal, Chayton's testimony dies with daylight. "Marshal," Ellis ventures, voice low, "Sutter was negotiating a second treaty. Folks at Fort Sumner swear he trusted Chief Red Cedar. Maybe we oughta—" "Shut it, deputy." Dalton's words crack like a spur lash. Yet the hesitation frays his authority. The 2 greenhorns exchange uneasy glances. Chayton sways but remains upright, eyes locked on Ellis. "You have sisters, deputy." Colonel Sutter wrote how traitors promised to protect settlers while arming renegades to raid them. More fear equals more government contracts. More contracts equal enough. Dalton snatches for the journal. Silas moves without thinking. The Winchester's stock blocks the grab. Wood thuds bone at Dalton's wrist. The journal flips into the sand between them. 6 guns leap from holsters. Deputies wheel, unsure where to aim. Marshal or rancher? Dalton curses, clutching his bruised hand, fury roiling. In that poised to explode tableau, Chayton does the unthinkable. He begins to sing. Low, rhythmic, words weaving through twilight in mescalero tongue. Half lament, half summons. The melody vibrates the very ribs of the earth. Dalton's face hardens. He's signaling his war band. Ellis backs a step, rifle wavering. Marshal, if reinforcements are coming, maybe we should talk first. Talk gets you killed, Dalton snarls, but sweat beads his temple. Silas hears it first. A distant reply. Hoofbeats? No, a drum of riders beyond the butte. 30? 40? Hard to tell, but growing. Dalton barks, Cooper, grab that ledger. Deputy Lyle lunges. Silas kicks up sand, blinds him for a heartbeat, just long enough for Chayton to scoop the journal back under his body. Then the sound crests the ridge. Thunder of many horses, accented by the whoosh of wind over lances. Sunset ignites flashes of eagle feather and polished copper. Dalton's bravado drains. He wheels on his men, voice rising. Form firing line! Ellis hesitates, conflicted gaze flicking from approaching silhouettes to Silas, to the bleeding prince who might be innocent, or the last hope for peace. The first Apache riders break the ridge, silhouettes stark against the blood-orange sky. They don't charge, they glide, disciplined, forming a crescent larger than Dalton's. Lances upright, rifles slung but unsheathed. At their center rides a gray-haired chief whose posture rivals kings. Dalton's pistol arm trembles. Silas levels the Winchester, not at the riders, but at the lie that stands between war and peace. A lie wearing a marshal's badge. The desert holds its breath. One wrong move, and twilight will shatter in gunfire. Yet one true word, and the night might gift the territory a fragile, bleeding chance at something better than fear. The Apache column halts 10 yards shy of the well, horses snorting vapor into the cooling dusk. Sunfire paints every feather and rifle barrel copper red. At their center sits an elder whose presence quiets even the wind. Chief Red Cedar, Chayton's father. He dismounts slow as sunrise, spine straight despite winters etched in his hair. Marshal Dalton's voice wavers but tries for iron. This is U.S. territory, Chief. Break circle, disarm, and hand over the prisoner. Red Cedar studies Dalton as a surgeon studies infection. Then, perfect English, precise as courthouse bells. My son is no prisoner. He carries proof of murders committed under your badge. Murmurs ripple among the deputies. Silas catches Ellis's eye. The younger man's rifle droops a degree, uncertainty sharpening in his face. Chayton pushes away from the well, sways but stays upright. Blood darkens his sash, yet his voice is clear. Father, the ledger. He lifts the journal, palms trembling. Red Cedar steps forward. Silas helps him cradle the wounded prince in one arm, while his other accepts the blood-freckled book. Dalton explodes. That's federal evidence. Hand it over. Evidence of your dealings, Chayton retorts. Colonel Sutter wrote names. Yours among them. He turns, addressing the deputies. He logged serial numbers of rifles lost in transit. How many did you find in settler wagons, Deputy Ellis? Ellis's mouth works. 3 crates, he admits, voice brittle. I filed the report. It vanished. Red Cedar opens the ledger to a page marked by dried crimson. Inked columns list dates, calibers, destinations, and a signature, H. Dalton. The deputation leans closer. Fear skitters across Dalton's face before rage masks it. Forgery, he hisses, yanking his Colt free. Lyle mirrors him. Mooney hesitates. The 2 rookies freeze, trapped between loyalties. Silas's Winchester slides up to his shoulder, barrel aimed at Lyle's chest. Dalton flicks his pistol toward Silas. Lower it, rancher, or die a traitor. Chief Red Cedar raises a hand. Apache lances dip, not to strike, but to form a gleaming wall behind him. Silent promise of retribution. No one fires. The moment stretches, brittle. Chayton pulls a folded note from inside the ledger. Sutter's last letter, he announces, addressed to Territorial Governor Avery, mailed but never delivered. He struggles to read, voice ragged yet resolute. If anything befalls me, hold Marshal Hank Dalton for questioning. He profits from hostility he publicly condemns. Dalton's finger tightens on the trigger. Deputy Ellis steps between his marshal and the chief, Henry rifle half raised. Sir, we need to stand down and sort this legal. Get out of my way, Miles, Dalton growls. Ellis plants his boots. Not till I see justice clear. A thunderclap of hooves rolls from the north. Another dust plume, smaller than the Apache band but riding hard. Every head turns. Against the purple horizon gallops a single courier, flagging a white dispatch pennant. He reins to a halt, gasping, Orders! From Santa Fe! He thrusts a leather tube at Ellis, then wheels away. Duty done, desert swallowing him. Ellis breaks the seal. Parchment unfurls. His eyes skim, widen. He reads aloud. By executive directive of Governor Luther Avery, pursuit of one Chayton Red Elk is suspended pending formal inquiry into the death of Colonel A.J. Sutter. All officers to render medical aid and safely escort the witness to Fort Wingate. The document bears Avery's blue wax stamp. Silence detonates around the well. One rookie deputy lowers his revolver first, the other follows. Mooney's shoulders sag. He unclasps his belt and lets his sidearm drop. Lyle wavers, eyes flitting from Dalton's fury to the governor's words, then mutters a curse and kicks dirt over his own gun. Marshal Dalton stands alone, pistol shaking. You think a piece of paper overrules my authority? It overrules treason, Ellis answers, leveling his Henry at the badge that used to mean something. Dalton's gaze flicks toward Emma Carlyle, the laundress still clutching her baby near the supply wagon. Desperation lands like sweat on his brow. He lunges, grabs Emma's arm, yanks her between himself and every barrel in the yard. Back off or the child dies. Emma shrieks. The baby wails. Every rifle jerks. Nobody has a clear line without risking the infant. Dalton's eyes blaze. Cornered animal. Final bite. Silas feels the world narrow to trigger. Breath, heart. One wrong pull and innocence pays. Across the circle, Chief Red Cedar's voice cuts the panic, low and resonant. Marshal, release the mother. Shame will hurt less than our arrows. Dalton laughs, a cracked thing. Shame? I'll trade shame for gold. Ledger, Chief, or I start with the child. Chayton sways, agony twisting his face. He grips the journal as if it's his own pulse. Silas steps sideways, drawing Dalton's aim. You want gold? Trade the girl for me. Dalton's gun tracks Silas. Emma slips free, stumbling toward Red Cedar's grasp. The baby's cries fade into his buckskin cloak. Dalton realizes the switch too late. His hostage gone, leverage bleeding out like daylight. Fool! He cocks the Colt, swings toward Chayton. A deafening crack splits the twilight, but not from Dalton's pistol. Deputy Lyle, conscience at last louder than fear, fires once. Dalton's gun spins from his hand. Metal skitters across gravel. The marshal staggers, clutching a shattered wrist. Apache warriors do not draw steel. They do not need to. The law has policed itself. Night settles rapid in desert country. Coyotes yip somewhere beyond the ridge. Heralds of change. Deputies close on their wounded commander. Lyle drops his rifle, wrists already held out for the irons he knows will follow. Ellis turns to Silas, voice unsteady. You just saved a treaty, and maybe the territory. Silas exhales a breath he feels he's held for 6 years. The real reckoning, he knows, arrives with dawn. But tonight, mercy and truth have carved a narrow sanctuary in the sand. Across the circle, Chayton leans on his father, ledger still clutched. Torchlight finds Silas's face. For the first time since the wind started shifting, he allows himself a rough-edged grin. Hope, tasting like well water after a long drought. Darkness floods the ranch like ink poured over parchment. Deputy Ellis and the 2 rookies lash Marshal Dalton's shattered wrist, binding him to a fence post with rawhide reins. Lyle kneels nearby, hands tied but unhurt, face lit by the torch glow of Apache sentries. Dalton spits dust, muttering promises of governors, judges, gallows for traitors. No one answers. Chief Red Cedar orders camp formed in a protective crescent. Warriors on the rim, horses inside, wounded beside the well. Silas and a tribal healer pack pulverized yarrow into Chayton's wound. The young prince clenches his jaw but does not cry out. Moonlight rims his sweat-slicked cheekbones, turns the ledger's bloodstains black. Ellis crouches beside Silas. At first light we ride for Fort Wingate, 30 miles if the riverbed stays passable. Silas nods, eyes scanning the silent desert. Trouble's not done with us yet. He's right. 20 minutes later, a reflection winks on the far ridge. Lantern glass catching moon. Silas lifts his spyglass. A dozen silhouettes on horses too heavy with gear to be cowhands. No badges, no war paint, hired guns. The conspiracy found backup faster than dawn. Chayton sees the glint too. Breath tight, he rasps, "Night teeth. They'll strike while you sleep." Ellis pales. "We're low on ammo. My rookies never fought off post." Chief Red Cedar rests a weathered hand on the deputy's shoulder. "Then we teach them to fight with earth and shadow." His warriors melt into motion, stringing rawhide trip lines between wagon wheels, planting caltrop thorns harvested from cholla inside loose sand. Two braves cut fence wire and weave it at knee height along the approach, silent snares for charging horses. Silas jogs to his tool shed. Beneath a tarp lie 3 sticks of dynamite left from blasting a drainage ditch. He tucks them into his vest, grabs a coil of fuse rope thick as a snake, and returns to the well. Emma Carlyle rocks her child near a feed trough, fear shining in lamplight. Silas hands her the fuse. "Root cellar under the hay barn. Soon as shooting starts, you get inside. Pull this cord after you. Sparks will run the line. Blow the bridge timber behind you. Seal the door." Emma's eyes widen, but she nods. Survival leaves no room for gentleness. Midnight. Coyotes yip, restless. Mooney paces beside Dalton's post. The wounded marshal's eyes gleam with something like glee. "They're coming for that ledger. When they're done, Apache carcasses will season your well water, McAllister." Silas ignores the taunt. He climbs onto the well rim, peers into black. A rifle report cracks from the ridge. Testing range. Seconds later, a burning stick sails overhead, lands in the cattle pen, and sputters out. A warning shot, not meant to start fire. Mercenaries want darkness, not flames. Red Cedar's voice carries low across the yard. "Hold. Let them taste our thorns." The first charge comes silent. 3 riders galloping narrow through the wash. Hooves hit buried caltrops. Horses scream, pitch forward. Riders tumble into barbed snares. One fires wildly, slug bearing into dirt. An Apache arrow flickers, finds his throat. The scream dies. Gunfire erupts along the ridge. Bullets hiss through the night, spark off the wellstones. Silas ducks, returns 2 measured shots. Winchester thuds echo. Ellis's rookies steady tremoring hands and fire from behind a wagon, sparks dancing at each muzzle flash. Mercenary leader, black Stetson, buffalo coat, waves a lantern side to side. New signal. 4 shadows peel off, circling toward hay barn, the weak flank. Silas's gut knots. Emma and the baby are there. He sprints across open yard, slugs whipping past like angry bees. At the barn wall, he yanks fuse from his vest, jams dynamite into a water keg he'd rolled earlier. Feet pound outside, gunmen approaching. He lights the cord with a match and kicks the keg out the side door. It rolls down the incline, clunks against a boot. Buffalo coat curses. A deputy's borrowed Henry barks. Lyle, freed in exchange for intel, fires from inside a chicken coop. The mercs spin, too slow. The keg erupts. Thunder, flame, shards of wet wood. Shock waves slap Silas against the barn boards. When dust clears, 2 gunmen lay sprawled. Others flee, stumbling. From the main front, Red Cedar unleashes Phase 2. Warriors pop up behind wagon barricades, rifles cracking in disciplined rhythm. Mercenaries on the ridge answer but shoot high, spooked by unseen foes. Arrow after arrow whistles through gloom, Guided by moon-silvered feathers, saddles empty, Marshal Dalton bellows at his hired men. Useless. Bound hands strain against rawhide until flesh tears. He drags himself toward a dropped carbine nearby. Mooney intercepts, boot on the gun, cuffing his own commander tighter. Ends tonight, sir. Minutes stretch, lid sings, dust thickens. Finally, Merc survivors break and scatter, hoofbeats fading like retreating thunder. A lone figure stumbles, wounded, into the trip line and crumples. Silence blooms in the aftermath, broken only by the hiss of dying fuse and a distant owl. Red Cedar lifts a hand. Cease fire. No echo answers. The ranch still stands, pockmarked, smoke-tinged, but unburned. Chayton, pale yet conscious, grips Silas's arm. Brother, you held the night. Ellis checks casualties. One rookie grazed, one Apache arrow cut. Lyle's shoulder bloodied but proud. 4 mercenaries dead, 2 captured, rest fled. Evidence: ledger, letter, governor's stay, secure under Chayton's blanket. Dalton spits blood-tinged saliva at Silas's boots. Sun's not up yet, rancher. You think the courts will choose an Indian's word over mine? Before Silas can answer, a distant glow touches the eastern sky. Coyotes fall quiet. Dawn approaches, bringing law outside Dalton's reach. Chief Red Cedar addresses the weary circle. When the new sun wakes the lizards, we ride. Some to Wingate, some to track the ones who ran. Truth travels with us. Silas wipes sweat, powder, and another man's blood from his brow. He meets Chayton's gaze. Prince and rancher share a silent promise. Hold for one more sunrise and peace might have a fighting chance. Yet even hope has a heartbeat of warning. From the south, a lone torch appears, bobbing, carried by unknown hands. Another faction? Governor's escort? Or one more knife aiming for the dark? The night, it seems, still has teeth left. Gray light bleeds into the sky as the stray torch draws closer, bobbing like a will-o'-the-wisp over sage. Silas, Ellis, and Chief Red Cedar ready rifles. No one eager to spill more blood, yet no one foolish enough to trust a stranger's flame. Out of the half-light emerges a 6-man escort of territorial cavalry draped in dust-dull blue. At their head rides Captain Ira Grant, his sash knotted with the governor's seal. He reins up, salutes Red Cedar first, an act that tilts the morning toward respect, then addresses Silas. Courier reached Santa Fe. Governor Avery orders safe conveyance of witness Chayton Red Elk and immediate custody of one marshal, Hank Dalton. Dalton laughs, raw and metallic. My badge outranks your ink. Grant tosses him a folded document. Suspension of commission. Pending indictment for arms trafficking, murder, conspiracy. Dalton's smirk fractures. Chains click. A trooper shackles him with practiced finality. By full sunrise, the convoy stretches eastward. Chayton on a travois. Pulse steady. Apache warriors flanking either side. Ellis, rookies, and Lyle, now an official witness, guarding prisoners at the center. Silas riding point with Captain Grant. Behind, Emma's wagon bumps along, baby cooing at every jolt. Proof the ugly night birthed something innocent. Mile 12. A desert wind lifts, scented with yucca bloom. Lyle shares what he overheard from the mercenaries, names of depot clerks on the payoff list. Grant scribbles each into a pocket ledger, every stroke another nail for Dalton's coffin. Mile 20. The posse reaches a dry river cut where canyon walls funnel sound like horns. Ambush country. Warriors fan out above the rim. Silas and Ellis dismount, scanning. A single shot cracks, ricochet off rock. Warning, not aim. The last 2 mercenaries, those who fled, block the narrows, rifles trembling. Chayton, hoarse but lucid, waves Grant back. Let me speak. He sits upright on the travois, voice echoing off stone. The man you bled for will hang alone. Throw down guns, stand witness, and ride free. One mercenary lowers his weapon, eyes haunted by the night's memory. The other follows, metal clanging into the dust. No blood spilled. The canyon exhales. Adobe walls glare white in the sun as guards swing open the gates. A tribunal already waits. Governor's magistrate, army provost, Two tribal envoys. Papers fly, signatures bloom, chains clang. Dalton and Hawkins disappear into the blockhouse, swallowed by legal machinery they once greased. Inside the infirmary, an army surgeon stitches Chayton, while Red Cedar and Silas stand sentinel. The surgeon mutters admiration. Bullet missed the lung by a hair. Another 24 hours, he'll sit a horse. Silas finally unclenches fingers numb from 2 days of rifle grip. Red Cedar notices, touches his arm. Courts may punish men, the chief says, but hearts must choose peace each dawn. Yours chose before the sun rose. The infirmary door opens. Captain Grant enters holding the now famous ledger inside a tin strongbox. Governor Avery telegraphs, evidence sufficient for grand jury. Treaty talks resume next month, with the Southern Mescalero represented. He glances to Silas. Seems this rancher's well became the most important courtroom in the territory. Silas tries to answer, but fatigue swallows words. He realizes night guilt and day duty have stretched him thinner than jerky. All he wants is home soil, the smell of cattle, maybe a roof that isn't leaking lead. Before departure, Red Cedar requests a brief council in the parade ground shadow. Soldiers ring the perimeter but do not intrude. The chief steps into the circle, carrying an object swathed in doeskin. Silas McAllister, he calls, voice carrying the gravity of mountains. Step forward. Silas obeys, boots leaving shallow prints in crimson dust. Red Cedar unwraps an eagle feather lance, beadwork glinting turquoise and bone. Carried by my grandfather at the Treaty of Three Rivers, never since by a hand not Apache. Last night you guarded life, not tribe. Courage such as that carries no border. The chief plants the lance in the earth, head angled in invitation. Silas lays his palm against the smooth ash shaft. Apache warriors touch shoulders, forming a living circle. A single drum beat marks each breath. Chayton, bandaged but upright, rests one hand on Silas's opposite shoulder, the other over his own heart. Brother Waterbearer, he says, ride with us whenever the desert feels empty. Warmth wells behind Silas's eyes. Strange. Welcome. He finds himself laughing, rough and shy, the sound unused since his wife's burial. In that laughter, the rancid ache of years seems to lift, if not vanish. Next dawn, the procession splits. Chayton's contingent heads north to Treaty Council. Grant escorts Dalton south to Santa Fe. Silas and Emma's wagon aim west for the Llano. Ellis shakes Silas's hand, newly minted acting marshal, till the courts decide. If rustlers give you grief, he says, send word. Law finally means something again. Hours later, Silas crests the familiar ridge. His ranch lies battered but unburned. Bullet scars in the wellstones, one fence line blown open, yet alive. Tumbleweeds clog a crater where dynamite spoke. Chickens peck indifferent around shrapnel. Life, stubborn as mesquite, refuses surrender. He plants the eagle feather lance beside the repaired gate, feathers catching prairie wind. Horses snort approval. Silas draws a bucket, sips the clear water, tastes flint, yarrow, and something else. Hope, cool against a throat still raw from shouting orders in the dark. On the porch he pauses, hat over heart, whispering to the memory of his wife. Gave a man a drink, Lena. The desert gave us peace back. A breeze answers through cracked boards. Maybe only wind, maybe a blessing. Behind him the lance stands tall, feathers trembling like small, constant flames. Reminders that a single act of mercy can ignite daylight across an entire frontier, and that dawn keeps returning, so long as someone is willing to safeguard the well.